to live stream the meeting within Zoom going straight to YouTube. The difference between live streaming versus recording to the cloud is my YouTube, someone can near real time see it. Recording to the cloud, I have to end my recording to see it. Okay. So we have it. So I will go over this today. If you have personal questions or anything like that, you're welcome to stay with me afterwards. I will stop recording and I won't answer any individual questions. And if there's any issues that you have, feel free to let me know on that. Okay, welcome. All right, now that we have everyone here, one of the things that's important is to think about is in this technology, where also the undercurrent is a lot of AI. How can technology help us reach out to others? How can it help us in a virtual setting? How can it help us in a hybrid setting? How can it help us teach others as differences? So one of the things that I want to make sure is our recordings are in a tutorial fashion where someone can follow you and you can reuse it as well. So in technology, we're having all the time the latest advances. The stock market goes up and down sometimes because of technology advances. So anything special happened today that anybody can think about that moved the market, the stock market? Raise your hand if you can think about anything that moved the market today that was exceptional. Okay, Frank?
Chinese tech company called DeepSeek
Okay, and what happened there,
built
Frank?
a really inexpensive model compared to OpenAI. That was only like 6 million, and OpenAI, which was invested in by NVIDIA and a bunch of other companies, went down maybe $500 billion because this
Only $500 billion.
yeah, it was a super
And
inexpensive
why?
model.
And
Well,
why?
because the other model was super inexpensive, and it was like a tenth of the cost.
Mm-hmm. And what is NVIDIA? Why was that stock going through the roof
Well,
previously? What does that company do that made it so exciting for all these investors?
they have pretty much a monopoly on the GPU industry, and so they're kind of really good at that. And they also have just been invested in a lot. And yeah,
And so why did the investor community kind of freak out and doom and gloom and maybe overreacted or underacted? But what was it that freaked them out so much?
that such a product that wasn't really invested in that much could compete with something that is
Where is that company
valuable.
located?
Well, so a lot of these AI companies that I personally think are like 10 years ahead of America are all from China. And
Right.
yeah,
So that's great, Frank. And what is your major, Frank?
entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneur. So you can see it. I appreciate the doing it. So you remember when I said to everyone that they should subscribe? You can get free subscriptions to the New York Times and Wall Street Journal. Everybody remember that? So let me just share my screen. Very good, Frank. So let me just share my screen. I have a lot of stuff on my screen, right? Let me just move a lot of this that I have. So many things open here. Where they get open, huh? It's like going crazy here, huh? So if I go to my browser, my Chrome browser, first thing is that I see here is a number of people getting online, and you can see that it's a bit delayed, but we don't worry about that. But that's my YouTube channel that I'm streaming live on. And then one of the things that I want to do is, let me just go to everybody can do that as well, but I'm going to go to the Wall Street Journal. You should subscribe to it. I've asked everybody to do that. And if you do subscribe, the first thing I see in the Wall Street Journal, right, Frank, is NASDAQ skids 3.1% in AI rout, sparked by China's DeepSeek. And notice this, NVIDIA slides 17% on concerns over outlook on AI spending. And it says here, Chinese upstart DeepSeek has trained high-performing AI models cheaply and without most advanced gear provided by chip maker NVIDIA and others. And NVIDIA's drop wiped out 593 billion in market value. A little bit, huh? And I love it. Here, you see this at that time on January 24th. So the question is, if you were invested in this, Frank, when did this report come out? Was this just today that it came out? Did you realize when it came out, Frank?
Yeah, I actually invested about a month ago, and so I kind of got
Invested in
so
what?
I invested in a about five Chinese tech companies like a month ago, and I actually told all my friends, take your money out of the tech market right now. There's
Wow,
a
you're
bubble.
you're basically an oracle.
Well, so
So
the
yeah,
guy that pretty much shorted the housing crash of 2008, a guy named Dr. Michael Burry. He has
yeah.
a movie called The Big Short. He actually took all of his portfolio out like probably 8 months ago and put it all in these Chinese tech
Yeah,
companies. So
yeah, it's the timing, but this even on this DeepSeek came out, last week they came out with the report. So even you could even have like an AI model, and shorting for everybody is what, Frank? That you're betting the market is going to do what? Go down, right? Rather than going up. And it'd be interesting to see also those Chinese companies, because were they also who was shorting this? Even last week, you could have even had an AI agent, looking at this and telling you. The question is now, how far is this going to go down? But one of the things is, it's interesting if you think about, look at all of this. Deep Sink, these are different opinions. Deep Sink won't sink US AI titans. The panic fueling the sell-off of NVIDIA and Broadcom and other tech giants is overblown. I don't know. That may be also people that are still we're not shorting it, right, Frank? So you never know. It's all that conversation. Oh, don't, it's not doom and gloom. It won't sink because I have all my money in it, right? I wanted to catch up. So it's hard to see, it's the tech is overblown, but the behind blurred my book in China deep. But look at this, who's giving the malicious attacks on it? DeepSeek hit by malicious attacks. Look how much the Wall Street Journal is talking about that. So what is interesting here is this, what to know about DeepSeek. And basically, the idea, and that's why I'm talking about it with you, is the Chinese upstart said it's trained high performing AI models cheaply without using those advanced chips. In my opinion, we really don't even know if they're not using those advanced chips. They may not even want to announce it. Why? Are they supposed to be getting those advanced chips, Frank?
no.
No. So you never know where they're getting from, Hong Kong or what. So everything that I'm reading, and this is my opinion, everything I'm reading, also there's another side to it. This is what's reported here, but I don't even know if they're using those, but they definitely wouldn't be wanting to brag about we're using NVIDIA chips, right? Because it's supposed to be barred. What you also can see is when you're barring exports, everything isn't just barred. You know what I mean? You had a number of companies like the Russians were not being able to get funding, getting banks, and things are being done in the underworld that you really don't know about. But that's interesting. But what this company is and what makes it so interesting is their arrival to something like ChatGPT. So Greta, you've heard of ChatGPT, right? So in that case, then this is a Chinese version of ChatGPT. And basically, what you can see here that the stocks are like going crazy, and there was a broad sell-off after that Chinese said notice the word said, it had high trained, high performing AI models cheaply without the most advanced chip. NVIDIA closed 17% as we talked about it. And what's amazing to me, look at this, it is so hot that notice that they have latest updates on this. Never before does Wall Street just take one company, one event. Why is DeepSeek? What is deep? Why is it rattling stock markets? 9 hours ago, NVIDIA insiders have been sellers. That's interesting too, right, Frank? That if you really looked at it, they knew something that I didn't know, or maybe earlier. Heard on the street recap deep sink instead of deep sick. And deep seek generates excitement and questions in Silicon Valley. This is kind of interesting too, with the victim of large scale malicious attacks. Who's doing that? All of a sudden. And what is deep seek and why am I hearing about it now? And that's what I want to be talking in this class is always. That's why I want you to be reading before each class, even picking up that Wall Street Journal. You can read in other places too, but I think Wall Street does a better job than the New York Times in kind of showing this. But DeepSeek is a Chinese company which a week ago launched a week ago. So if you knew about this even a week ago, it was in the press. It wasn't hidden that you could have basically had an AI agent telling you to short betting that it's going to go down. What types of companies would go down? Its rivals called R1. The company said the model was particularly good at problem solving, performing on par with OpenAI's reasoning model, but at a fraction of the cost per use. And it was currently top iPhone download, but I think because of the malicious attacks, problems downloading, I think iPhone couldn't even handle it. Why are investors worried about it? The conventional thinking was AI companies needed expensive leading edge computer chips, such as those made by NVIDIA, to train. Remember, we're talking about training the best systems. That has justified huge spending by US tech companies such as Alphabet. So if I think about it, Finley, what's Alphabet? Have you heard of that company?
I have not.
Okay, you have, but you didn't know it. So what do you do in this class if you have not?
Research.
Finley, research it. So everybody, I suggest if you don't know what Alphabet is, research it. And Nick, have you ever heard of Alphabet?
I have not.
Well, you have not. And when I ask Finley, I'm really asking the entire class, right? Figure out what is Alphabet. And if I look at what is Alphabet, right, then I need to know, Will, what's Alphabet? Do you know that company? You know that company.
I've not heard of it before.
You haven't heard of it, but have you researched it right now? Look it
I'm
up.
looking it up right now.
You don't have to wait for me to tell you, right? Greg, Alphabet?
It's Google just under
It's
a different
Google.
name.
right? Will, I bet you heard of Google, right? It just changed its name a while ago. But you didn't even we keep on calling it Google, but that's Alphabet. That's Google. And Google, what is it? It basically also has those AI models. A lot of times they call them Gemini. And what is Meta then? Greg, what is Meta? Who is Meta?
Facebook.
Who?
Facebook.
Facebook, right? Instagram, right? And are they doing, they have it. So basically, you can think about it. Last week, companies including Oracle, which is a database company, and OpenAI, which is part of ChatGPT, pledged to spend just a little bit of money, Greg, right? 500 billion to build a new AI infrastructure. What is infrastructure? Basically, hardware in a venture they call Stargate, but DeepSeek didn't have leading edge chips and appeared roughly on par. So basically, DeepSeek released its R1 model as open source. So if I'm highlighting it, what does it mean, Greg? That everybody should be searching what the heck is open source in the class and understand who cares. So if I look, Levi, on open source, we have to basically try to figure out what is open source and who cares that DeepSeek released an open source version. And what about the others? What about OpenAI? What about Meta? What about Google? Are they open source? That's what I want you to find out. So these are the ways in which you want to be able to look at these. So in this case, if I'm looking at this, Frank, do you have a clue of what open source is?
Yes.
What is it?
To have I was just looking up something else.
Yeah.
If you actually look up an article about 15 minutes ago said that DeepSeek has access to 10,000 of NVIDIA's older generation GPUs.
Right.
That
You understand? So it's, and that's what they say. Who knows what they really have? That's my opinion. You know what I mean? I'm sure they have even the advanced ones too. But anyways, but what is open source?
just something that's kind of like free.
Well, first of all, what is source? Source code means the instructions to the computer. So everybody can put that in their notes there, right? That any program has code, right? Instructions. Open source means that they divulge that code. Now, for most of us in the class, whether they divulge that code or not is not important to us because we couldn't even read the code and we wouldn't be able to change the code. But the idea is, the meaning is, other programmers can read the code and not only use it, but they can make changes to the code. They can add on to the code. So the question here is, DeepSeek released a model that was open source. Originally, Frank, OpenAI, the reason it was called open was it also had open source code. But the idea with Altman, as they progressed, they made it closed. What about Meta? Do you have an idea, Frank?
I don't think Meta is open source.
It
I don't
is.
know.
Yeah, Meta has open source code, and that's why it made a big push to have open source code on theirs, on their Meta chatbots. So basically, DeepSeek even took some of that Meta's code and built onto it. So nobody is just basically on their own, they're building onto others. But, you know, it depends on the philosophy. Some philosophy are, let me be open, and then once I succeed, maybe I'll start being closed. You know, it's just like Apple. A lot of times they have a lot of closed source, you know, because, hey, I'm so successful, why should I share, right? But it's the idea. So this open source, put in your mind here, why is it important? It means others can pick up and adapt the model for their own use. that will mean other companies will be able to build, look at this then, Frank, on DeepSeek's approach. And basically do AI alternatives. So this may be the beginning. Another company can do on that as well, taking theirs. So why is it, it's hard to buy cutting edge chips, they're saying, and DP has to able to achieve the state of the art, suggests those export controls may be ineffective. And then they talk about who's behind it, how good is it. They have folks in Berkeley that have been testing these models, and then this pay, they would and realize, evaluate the program. So this is the key. Is DeepSeek a disaster for AI stocks? And here, not everyone thinks has upended the AI infrastructure. But you know what I think is makes everybody on their toes. It's easy to get complacent. That's like human beings, right? Frank, once you're great, you just sit on your laurels, right? And then who comes out is somebody that's hungry to get to you. You know, that's almost like entrepreneurs, right? That in the beginning, and what did they say about large companies is I want to be hungry again. You know, when I was first starting, I was hungry. So they were saying here why they're getting the big hit here. And it suggests then that NVIDIA lead on the day may not be as thought, or it's crucial. But look at this. You never know. NVIDIA may buy them too. You never know what it is, or take their people. You know what I mean? It's all, whatever it appears to be in the world is not exactly what it is, you know, but you can see here, the head of NVIDIA, he also knows, he also speaks Chinese, you know what I mean? So we can, who knows what is going on. But NVIDIA called DeepSeek an excellent AI advancement. Required to come up with it, it's called inference, requires significant number and high performance. Who might win in the turmoil? No, and they're basically giving this. And the other article that when I go back to the Wall Street Journal, which is interesting, is that Silicon Valley is raving about a made in China AI model. And so everybody's saying, hey, if I were going to have an AI bot, what do I want to do? I don't want to pay 50 times more. So even this one, you can see here, you know, that they're talking about it and sparking that sell-off, and they're specialists. Here it is sitting before a microphone, this young guy, right, that he's doing. So who knows what's going to happen there. But I just think it's kind of interesting for us to see here that in this case, the two models were ranked then in the top 10 on Chatbot Arena by UC Berkeley, basically rates these. You know what I mean? Was in the top spot. So Gemini, right? Alphabet, when we talk about, but it's really Google Gemini model. While the invested Anthropic's Claude, Grok from Elon Musk. I think you have heard of him, right? And then it grew out of an AI research unit of High Flyer, a hedge fund manager with 8 billion assets. Interesting what that hedge fund did lately in the last week, you know, and then they talk about the guy that what he did in their meeting. So what I have you do is I've given you those two articles to read for Wednesday, and then you can keep up, just like you did, Frank, is kind of research what's going to be happening, you know, and even in 2 days, you think it's a long time. So that's what I love about this class, is that it's completely, I'm trying to get it completely changes, you know, that every week it's hard to even keep up, but that's the excitement of it. And almost we have to have each other to help. And also, I think even these agents, these AI agents can help us too in keeping it up nearly. So that was something extraordinary that happened. So I just wanted to share that with you, that you could see that something like that occurred. So basically, so how much trading you do, Frank?
I do a lot. I was kind of beginner in it at the beginning of high school, and then my setup's actually right here. I have a few monitors, and
Uh-huh.
so yeah, definitely in the mornings I get into it. But you mentioned the big hedge fund that helped with a few other companies, but the DeepSeek like the company DeepSeek was actually funded by the founder of DeepSeek from his own hedge fund. So yeah, I don't think it's gonna really continue to rumble Nvidia. I think honestly it's a good time to buy
What,
Nvidia.
NVIDIA, you mean?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think what I see is a lot of time the markets overreact. And I think there's going to be a big flying sell because a lot of people wanted to get into NVIDIA. Did you know that almost, oh, if only I would, now it'd be too high. So people think, now is maybe a good time to get in. But I think what it's also good for NVIDIA and all those other folks is it just gets them not complacent, and being hungry. I think that's, an area that we can do, and we'll talk about more about those agents. We'll be looking at even using a lot of these chat bots and seeing what are the implications. But I appreciate it, and let me know. Stay with me after class, Frank, and maybe we can talk about projects that maybe you can do, that we can see. Okay. So my goal here is to get us up and running and make sure that all our assignments are done and they're done properly and you can see it. But before we start, so let me share my screen. So you know that I record all my Zoom meetings and I record it to the cloud. So if you go to the Zoom meetings, you always can see the cloud recordings as a tab. So you can see those cloud recordings as a tab. So you see the 22nd was our last one. Today's recording, it takes a while that it records it on Zoom's server until they break it down into files. So you have that. You also, just so you know, that's the Zoom meetings. We'll take attendance at the end of the class. You'll also see in the what's due section, some of you were confused on what it is. Always go in the regular section, in the what's due section, you'll see this was for last week. You'll see that this week we've added an audit assignment, meaning that you'll upload it to your group's audit area. And if put in the chat, if you're not in an audit group for some reason, put it in a chat. And Greta, if you can let me know near the end here, once we get into the audit area, if somebody needs to be placed in there, you can see then the readings from the Wiley and then the adaptive assignment. So all the time, once I do the what's due, and you'll see here for Wednesday, I have these additional readings. But basically, to get familiar, my goal is for you to get familiar with DeepSeek and what is all the hullabaloo about. Why is this affecting and why do we care? So these are the two readings that I just went over with you for Wednesday as well. And then also every time before we meet is take a look at what's happening in the tech world and in the finance world. So I suggest even looking at Wall Street, the New York Times. I like Wall Street. It kind of brings it up more in terms of trading, but you'll see in the New York Times even, they did an article on what to know about DeepSeek and how it's upending AI. Had it a little known Chinese startup caused the markets in US to quake. Here's what to know. So this may be, once you go into the New York Times, you can find it as well. Okay. So then, the Wiley readings, as I said before, last week was chapter 1. And these are the readings that you can do. And always at the end of the reading is the adaptive assignment. And notice I am the instructor in this class. You are the teaching assistants. So when I open up my dashboard, I get a different view from you. And what's troubling here is that I see that 14 haven't started. So the question is, are these 14 didn't start and they're no longer wanting to participate in this class, or they added? So make sure that those of you who haven't started, some of you can stay with me to see what is the issue. But this is based on my role as an instructor. This is a dashboard, and I see things that are important for me. I see that the majority have done it, but their 14 haven't even started. And then if I go to students, I can drill down and see an individual student. So I can see, for instance, that Lily and Nick and Catherine, Riley and Quinn and Negative and Frank have done that. Notice, Frank, there's different timings because it's adaptive. You spent more time than someone else, and that's because it's adaptive. And you can see then Sebastian is my TA, so he's in there, but he hasn't started because he's just TA and he just tried it for a while. And some of these people may have dropped. I don't know what is the situation, but I wanted just to show you that this is what I have on my end on how I have this done. Okay, so always after the readings, you need to have this adaptive assignment to be done. And then the other part are just quizzes in this area where you have multiple times. And you can see here on the 27th, if you haven't done that, you still have to 11:59. You can do it. You get a chance to do it twice. Your last score is counted. And of course, it's open book, open timed. You have to submit it before the end of tonight, but that you can see that. So those are the quizzes. And then you have the PowerPoints and documents. So you can see that you have the if you'd like, you can have the PowerPoints to each of the sections. And later on, if you see here, I've even just switched this to a PDF because we'll do it later on. We'll even use Google's Notebook LM. Some of you can even start earlier. This basically allows you to create study guides. It allows you even to create multiple choice questions. So we'll be using this, I think, in order to get to know it. We'll be using it even to prepare for each of you can use it to prepare for the next exam. We'll give it as an assignment later on. So you can see here that the next one we have is the PowerPoints. And this basically is starting to talk about the infrastructure, right? That if I look about these are talking about how a CPU works. We're going to be talking about, we have what we call a GPU, right? A graphical processing unit, and we'll have something called an NPU of a neural processing units that are used a lot in these new AI training modules, and this whole area that has really done well in the stock market have been these areas doing the chips, NVIDIA being number one on that. Okay, questions? Greta, is there anything I need to address on this?
I don't think so. I also don't see anything in the chat, so I think
Okay, so that's number one. Number two is, let's go to the audit area. Let me just see if this is the audit. Is this the groups here? So this is the assignment. The assignment groups are here. And probably what needs to be, you see here, we have here is group 0, group 1, group 2, group 3, 4, 5. We're missing 6. So can you be so kind and starting with Vanessa's group, make that 6, and then Eric, make that 7, 8, and 9. And Max put himself at the end. And maybe later on, we'll see if Max, we want him to maybe join some other groups that have just 3. Okay, so if you can do that, those on 7, 8, 9, and 10, or even just do it for each other. Because do you have, if I look under users and groups, under users, for instance, I can see then, for instance, Frank, you're listed as what? What's your role?
Teaching assistant.
Yeah, teaching assistant. And what about all your other fellow students? Have all been promoted to teaching assistants. The only difference is I'm listed, if you go down, I'm listed as instructor. So the question is, do I have more rights than you? And what it turns out is I have the exact same rights as you. I can do everything that you can do, Frank. The only thing that I can do that you cannot is you cannot delete me from the class. Okay, you all can delete each other, but you just can't delete me. Somehow, I'm getting paid, so I can't, I have to stay, you know what I mean? In order for me to get the paycheck, I have to do it. But other than that, you have the same rights. So basically what you're learning here is that you're being basically knowing how to be an administrator of a learning management system. In this case, we're using Blackboard. There are many others around, Canvas and others, but this has been the case. And with that, so you can upload anything you want. You can download anything you want. You can delete, but you need to make sure, again, anything that you upload, that you have backups of it, because by accident or otherwise, it's vulnerable, or even for yourself.
Dr. Rush, there's a few
Yes.
questions in the chat.
Okay, what is it? Is it important? Let me know what it is.
Oh, there was Caitlin doesn't have a group.
Okay, Caitlin doesn't have a group.
Yeah.
Okay, so in this case, why don't we do this? Let's look and see group 3. Lily, you're here, right?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so do you mind having Caitlin in your group?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so Caitlin, is Caitlin a user? What's Caitlin's last name?
It's Smith.
Smith. So are you listed? Do you have the audit area in your group?
I have like access to it, but I don't have like a group.
Okay, so you can put yourself in a group.
Okay.
Easy. If you're a teaching assistant, right? That's the beauty. You don't even, and Lily's group has allowed you to join them. You got it? So
Okay.
in this case, then just add yourself. And how would you do it? You just do edit and put yourself in.
Okay,
That's
thanks.
the beauty of it.
I
Great.
also asked a question. So
What?
I was wondering if the assignment that is in the what's due, is that what this is? Is it a group assignment?
No, right now, it's an individual assignment. So if I go back to the audit, right, and I look at audit assignment instructions, it's right this. This is the assignment. That's what's due. But you're going to input it into the audit area. Does that clarify it, Finley? And let me tell you about it. You're just reading my mind. I want to give you an idea of what is the purpose of this assignment. This purpose of this assignment is to do it individually, but you can help each other, Finley. But each person has to do their own. And you want to look at all a number of features and settings in zoom.miami.edu because it's an enterprise version. Some things like streaming to YouTube, or a lot of times even saving to the cloud, you need to have a paid version. There's a free version of Zoom, and then there's paid version of Zoom. I want to take advantage of the free version of Zoom. So of the paid version of Zoom, the enterprise version of Zoom. So the whole idea, and I was telling my teaching assistant, Daniel, that somehow when he wrote up the assignment, it loses face of what the end result is. The end result is of this assignment is you to create a tutorial that someone can see and do the same things that you do, that you're teaching. So what is the value is that you learn yourself, you can teach other people how to learn it, and then you can take it with you. This, Finley, showing somebody that you got an 80 or a 90 or 100, I hate to tell you, but nobody really cares. Let me show you, when you're out in the marketplace, nobody cares, Finley, that, let me show you my 100% that I got all the multiple choice questions right. What would they ask you, Finley? Can you do something for me? I want to stream to YouTube. I want to monetize my brand, something like that you can show them. So one of the things that I want to make sure you do, and this was not emphasized enough, is you want to record the screen plus your face. Just like I'm sharing my screen, rather than just talking from your room about everything, you want to show how to do it. Now you'll see some things get recorded and some don't, but as the best of your ability, that's why you want to prepare for this and give it as a tutorial, and then even talk about issues that you have, but to share your screen with it. So one of the things that, let me show you, so this, making sure that everybody understands it, the assignment is under audit assignment instructions, but you'll input it in the audit area. Let me get the audit class where everybody has groups. Everybody with me? So in group 0, Zoom group assignment is not available yet, but it's Zoom individual assignment. That's what we're doing for Wednesday. In that, you'll see an example of Sebastian, who is my another teaching assistant. He gave an example where he did an MP4 file, and when you see MP4 file, Finley, what do you think MP4 represents? It represents a file format, and this was recorded to your computer. So the beginning of your assignment, I want you to show what is record to your computer look like. But the majority of your assignment you should be doing as a Zoom cloud recording without a password. And show, even in the beginning, what in the Zoom, how do you make a Zoom recording by going to settings? How do you make it without a password? Also, a YouTube live streaming, if you look at it, this is the YouTube live streaming. And then talk about what you showcased. You're going to turn on the AI companion, and it will, by your Zoom cloud recording, make up a summary. And you can just cut and paste that. And the takeaways, you can comment on what was useful, what did you find difficult, what were the challenges that you had. So if I look under assignment groups, and I look under group 2, I see that there should be in every group, I should see a folder saying Zoom individual assignment. And within that, you can put all your assignments in. You don't have to put a folder for each individual, but it's your Zoom's individual assignment in your group. So if I go here, Camelia already started. She has her Zoom MP4 file, which is her local recording. She has a Zoom local recording. She has her live stream. And then she has her showcase, which is good. She has her AI bullet points where it says Camelia Garcia. And notice that the AI, they put in she. A lot of times when it does it for me, Dr. Rush, it puts in he. You can see how the model, the training model, basically looks, I guess, in some kind of dictionary and tries to figure out, is the first name a female or male? And it looks like it got it right for her, but for me, it put he. So you can see almost Finley, it's almost biased, right? If it says doctor, it must be a male. But she got that. Then take away, and then challenging, and then she talks about some issues there. Everybody see that? But the key here is I want, when somebody sees this, Finley, I want them to be able to follow it. And to following it, you need to share your screen. So what Camelia has to do, if we looked at it, and she's giving me permission to look at it, right? When we go and look at it, we see her face, but what do we see? She's talking, I'm just even saying.
Featuring Zoom that makes it easy to review it.
You're right, but what's the problem?
Making it easy to
Come
click
here.
back, edit, and upload.
Right.
For us-
So we don't need to see her speaking all the time. What I want to see is her face, but then share her screen. It's going to be much more valuable. Don't you think so, Caitlin? If you were going to look at it, you want to follow it by doing that. That was not as clear as it should be. So under the announcements, we put that needs to be done. So what's nice here is Camille already has her YouTube account. She knows how to do these, and she really just has to redo this. And once she redoes she needs to redo the Zoom individual, which that should be short, like even a minute or something. But then I want you to show like the settings, how you set up the settings, and that should be done in your Zoom cloud recordings. Make sure that you show what are the settings supposed to look like, that somebody can follow it. And then your YouTube live streaming, she'll do a YouTube live, so she doesn't have to redo two right here. She does one, and her YouTube live will just have another URL. And then she can add some things that she found here. Does that make it clearer, Finley?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. And what I'm insisting on is start doing at least that YouTube live streaming. Do it tonight, at least get that done, because you need 24 hours from Google to give you that permission. And you cannot use your Gmail account that's part of UM. Because what does Google want? Is it wants that you have complete control. And your university Gmail account, Google account, is not up to you all the authority. The university has administrative rights on that. Just like Zoom, and has administrative rights, it has, I cannot make certain settings available to myself. The university has a higher power. Remember, we talked about roles. It has a higher power in the roles for it. So I allow you to work. You can take your group. Each of you needs to do this part, but you can help each other. And under this is individual assignment. Camelia, she did a great job. She put the date, the time, the MP4. Then she has the Zoom cloud recording. Notice it's by the University of Miami. She didn't develop that, right? So it says here she basically, if I look at it, I know you have full control, Camelia, because she has the date, the time she did it, she has her name, and she put in the Zoom individual. This right here is done. How do I know it's done by the university's Zoom account? How do I know that? I see miamizoom.us. And then they come up with some link in their browser. YouTube comes up with their link based on your account. You can do it, basically, you can make it open or you can make it private, but you have to share your YouTube link so we can see it. The local recordings and the cloud recordings. And what I'd like you to talk about is really what were the issues, what was maybe even difficult you to define, what were the problems. If you have problems outside and you have problems with the YouTube live streaming, getting that account, some things are not in your power. What is in your power is for documentation purposes. So you can even do another Zoom recording of what were your issues in YouTube live streaming, and you can even record, this is how I recorded it, this is the documentation, this is when I tried it and it wouldn't work. So when you have issues and you've done it in time, some things are beyond your control, but what is in your control, Finley, is to document it. So you can document those recordings. These are where I had issues. This is how I tried to solve it, and it's still remaining issues. Some of it's beyond your control. Some of it we can fix later. We can see. But just saying it didn't work, you will not get credit for that. You understand, Finley? But if you say, hey, I've done the thing, I did it 48 hours in advance, this is the response, and it's still not letting me do it, you can help each other in the group and see if you can solve it. Otherwise, document. So this is due on Wednesday. Once we finish this, then we have another assignment that we'll give you on Wednesday, doing some additional things as a group. Going beyond this, that some things, even with Zoom recording doesn't allow you to record their entire screen. So we need another screen recorder even to do that. And sometimes Zoom recording isn't enough. We need other things on premise, other cloud recordings that we can do. And that's what we'll do for the next assignment. So each time, but Lily, my emphasis to you is that I want it to be useful for not only yourself, but for others. And you just talking about it in your room is not, it's a beginning, but it's not enough, right? People want to see the screens, but I want you to show yourself there. One is to give authenticity to your tutorial. Rather than, hey, now, Finley, I know we got a brand, right? We know that we can recognize you're almost branding yourself, but you'll be in a small section of it, not your entire face for, the entire time. That's for sure. And you can be as creative as part, but you have to be prepared for it. It's not just wandering around. Does that help, Finley? Does that emphasize it? And that's the beauty here, is that you can look at others, and community sees that that's not, she has a start, but now she realizes she just has to do it, but it's not going to take her that long now. Once she knows she's already done it, she just needs to share her screen, and it'll be a lot better. And then she can give it to other people that don't know how to do live streaming. Hey, you can be on my channel and you can see how you can live stream. And I'm already giving you some value. And then when you go to an internship, did you know this before? No, now you know it. Other people don't know it. It's not just to be, when people say, oh, what did you learn there? I learned how to be on Zoom. Well, everybody knows how to be on Zoom, right? But it's the idea, how can you even think about it as branding yourself? How can you think about it as instilling tutorials for people, right? And to helping each other. Questions? That makes sense, Greg, that we kind of see that, No. So you guys decide. However you do it, it's up to you. The group, what you're going to be doing the group, the next assignment is going to be with your group, that everybody's going to need to participate and be a part of it, that group there, because you'll be learning other things, like how do you co-host, or how do you spotlight, or how are you going to do a poll, or other things in Zoom that you need as a group. So one person will be the host, another person will be a co-host, another person will take the poll, another person will administer the poll, right? You'll be put on different roles. But first we want to say individually that you'll have it, and then you'll do it, and then you'll take someone in the group that had their YouTube live account that you'll be streaming it for the next one. But you'll take one person that decides to invite others to be a participant, and then you can upgrade people. You'll be the co-host, you'll have different roles. I'll spotlight the speaker, other things. That make clear? Everybody kind of got it now? And thank you for letting me share your work. You know what I mean? That you can see it, and that's the beauty. You really look good on camera, but the idea is to show the screen. And that everybody's professional on it, that it's a profession, that you can share it. Hey, already I can do something for somebody. And you'll have a portfolio. You understand? In Finland, you'll have a portfolio at the end of the semester. Hey, I'll do this. I'm going to do a website here. I'm going to be doing chatbots. I'm going to be not just using a regular chatbot. We'll be using our own information. I'll be doing creating study guides, all with using AI. Each, one that you'll be familiar with. So you can have a portfolio, and also basically preparing for the next exam. Somebody was asking me, what's the exam going to be? Are we going to do a day of review? We'll have a day of review, but you'll do the review, have the AI create study guides for you, right? See how well it does. Have it create multiple choice questions. We have some in the already some, let the AI create some multiple choice questions to help us train. And maybe some of those questions that the AIs will do, you'll post it, and we'll use some of those for the exam. Got it? Got how we're working? But we expect everybody to do their full part and to do it early. And as I said before, if you want to slack on this every week, this is like just the very beginning, making sure, the simple assignments, just to make sure that everybody got it right. But that you can say, hey, now I know it. It's not rocket science, but it's at least I can and do with it. Okay. Anything else I need to know, Greta? We got everybody. If you're not in a group, hopefully you put yourself in a group. I suggest, I don't have to do it, but I suggest especially that YouTube streaming, you need to have an account or set that up by today, or else you won't have enough time to get it done. And you have to show that you've done it in a timely manner. Okay, so let me share my screen. We'll do attendance. Stay with me. If I asked you to stay with me, Greta, stay with me as well. And Frank, stay with me. And then others, if you have questions, I'll be answering any questions you have. I'll turn off my recordings and everything at that time. But let me share my screen. And I enjoyed the class. I think it was kind of interesting how we're getting it all together. Okay, so I've done this. We'll go back to my attendance. And I'll check in. Hopefully start check-in. Once we see the number 6882, put that in. If Greta, can you be so kind and put that in the chat just in case someone doesn't see it? And I'll stop sharing 6882. And you're welcome to, if you don't need to talk to me, you're welcome to end the class formally. See what we need to do. And let me